As Tomalin Martin Polite and her husband Antoine walked through the International African American Museum at Gadsden's Wharf, they examine faces, places, exhibits, and artifacts. Her appreciation for history heightened because a stranger knocked on the door of her family's home more than 30 years ago.
When I was 19 years old, Ed Ball came to the home and presented our family with documents and information that he had found in his research of his family's plantation.
Ed Ball was an author and researcher who was able to trace the Martins' family history nearly 250 years.
He was able to show us the unbroken paper trail of a young girl, 10 years old, that was kidnapped from Sierra Leone and brought to South Carolina, and his family purchased her, gave her the name Priscilla.
And who was Priscilla to you?
Priscilla is my 7th generation grandmother, so she is my great, 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 great grandmother.
Polite explained her father, Thomas Martin, had been working on a family tree, so the discovery was stunning and welcome.
My dad was elated. He was just at a loss for words because he had also been trying to trace our family's history and, came across stumbling blocks.
Describe Ed Ball, this person who was coming to your house with this life-changing information.
You can tell that he had some trepidation about coming and giving this information to a family, an African American family. This was history. This was not something that he did. This was information that he found through his family's records. They kept very meticulous records. He wanted to find out what happened to those descendants of the slaves that his family had owned.
The discovery of Priscilla's descendants in the Low Country caught the attention of Joe Apala, a scholar and researcher of the connection between Gullah Geechee culture and West Africa. He organized a trip to Sierra Leone for Tomalin and her family, chronicled in this documentary made by the Martin family.
From the food to the music, to the speech, to the actual traditions. For example, what we would call red rice here, it was jollof rice. They had the sweetgrass baskets that we make here. They had the same baskets there woven, and it was just to see those similarities. And the speech, the lingo, the language was Creole, so that all of the different tribes could communicate. And although I couldn't speak it well or understand a lot of it, I did understand some things because it was very similar to the Gullah Geechee language that I hear in Charleston.
One of the things that happened was a portrait being made, trying to get a visual of how this girl may have looked.
Dana Coleman was commissioned to create this portrait. He used a portrait of myself when I was 10 and used images of Sierra Leonean girls who were about 10 years old, and morphed the pictures together to create what we would feel would be Priscilla.
Sadly, Thomas Martin passed away before Tomalin and her family traveled to Sierra Leone. But Tomalin says her father's spirit was with them as they witnessed a testament to the survival of African culture in America. I spoke with Ed Ball, who teaches at Yale University, about his book, Slaves in the Family, which won the National Book Award and changed the American conversation about race.
When I was a young adult, I respected what was a taboo around the subject of slavery. I did not want to open that box, if you like, because I knew that it was too difficult and too full of shame for me. The Ball family controlled more than a dozen rice plantations in the Low Country for about 200 years and enslaved close to 4,000 people over that time on those rice plantations.
Ball also told me about a conversation he had. The year was 1999. He spoke with then Charleston Mayor Joe Riley.
And he said, I read your book. It's very powerful. What do you think about establishing an African American museum here in Charleston? And I said, Mayor Riley, I think that's a great idea. Well, that was 25 years ago, and the museum opened last year, and it's a very good thing. It did.
The International African American Museum opened June 2023 at Gadsden's Wharf. The 2-acre waterfront plot of land on the peninsula was a point of embarkation for millions of enslaved Africans. Dr. Tanya Matthews, Chief Executive Officer of the museum, says the Martin family history being linked 7 generations is rare, but it doesn't have to be.
It's not common, but it doesn't have to be as uncommon as it currently is. One of the things we've learned in recent years is it is possible to trace the genealogy of African Americans back generation after generation and to have names. And while there is a lot of trauma in those times, there's so much more joy and resilience, particularly when you can find the name, the ability to say the name, or even to find a space or an energy, and perhaps you are giving that descendant a name. So all of these things are really important and really critical, and most importantly, they are now possible.
Tomlin says knowing her family's beginning gives her peace, that the struggle to strength is worth the journey.
When you think about these Africans that were taken, kidnapped from their home, and the last piece of soil that they touched in their country, and then this is the first piece of soil they touched in the United States, it changed their lives forever.